Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Well, just when we thought the Dillian Whyte and Joseph Parker fight was going away, something has cropped up that this may not actually be done yet. So Duco Events, that is Joseph Parker's promoters, they may in fact actually challenge the result of the fight. And what is the basis of this? Well, it's some of the dirty tactics, the inadvertent headbutt. So I'll just direct you to, the story on screen here now. So this is from News Hub. Duco Events threatened to appeal Joseph Parker loss to Dillian Whyte. So there is a statement in here which says, it's clear that the clash of heads in the second round had a significant impact on the fight, both in terms of the scorecards and Joseph's performance in the middle of the rounds. In light of what is clear evidence of a significant error by the officials, there is a legitimate question as to whether the result should stand. That's a question Duco will be asking the sanctioning bodies on Joseph's behalf. So that was Duco's statement. They must have really been looking at this hard before deciding to go public with this information, because you wouldn't want to do this on a whim, because otherwise you're going to look silly. So they must have taken some advice, or at least thought very hard about coming out with this, because otherwise what's the point? So I guess the question now is, can something happen? Can the result be overturned in terms of being turned into a no contest, or whatever the case may be? In my view, I'm not sure if anything will really happen. There will be some sympathy for Parker and his plight given what happened in the second round. There's no doubt that, before that accidental head clash, Parker was boxing relatively well. That first round, he actually looked like he was making Dillian Whyte look like he was moving in slow motion. The speed difference was apparent. But in terms of, did this change the course of the fight? Well, you can argue that it did, because obviously Parker, he was knocked down from what was looking likely to be a Parker round, so it would have been 10-9 to him. Then all of a sudden it's reversed and it's a 10-8 round to Dillian Whyte. So essentially a 3-point swing. And in terms of the next round or two, from what I saw, I thought Parker didn't look quite right for at least a round, possibly more. And in terms of the rest of the fight, well, who knows what impact it actually had. But for a point in the fight, it did have some sort of impact. And you've got the scorecards on here. So Joseph Parker here on the right-hand column of each one. Round 3, where he still, to me, looked a bit groggy. You have him winning the round on a couple of the judges' cards there. And the one that he didn't win it was the card where it was the widest overall, 115 to 110. So in terms of the result, if they do turn that 3-point swing around, well, that would have been a draw. But, the fight could have played out differently. If Parker had have fought differently if he hadn't have been knocked down, it could have been a completely different fight. So just to say that Parker would have won or dominated the fight would be, I think, a bit of a long bow to draw there, because who knows what could have happened after that accidental head clash. But yeah, for mine, it did alter the course of the fight in some way. But, ultimately there were a number of rounds here, and, through the mid rounds, and this is something that I've talked about where in previous videos, where Parker, so you're looking through here rounds sort of, 6 to 10-ish, that was where the winning of the fight was done. Dillian Whyte got a number of these rounds. See, on this card, boom, all the way down. And then obviously he got most of these rounds on this left-hand side card, and in the middle one too, yeah, boom, all the way down there. So, those early rounds where he looked good, but then obviously sort of came into a bit of a brick wall called Dillian Whyte's head, it did have an impact. But an appeal, I've seen, had a couple of discussions on Twitter about this with a couple of different people who've sort of said it would leave a sour taste in their mouth if Duco follow through with this. And I've said they will be talking to the sanctioning body. I think a lot of us were just ready. These sorts of things do happen in boxing. It's not always fair, but sometimes it does happen. I don't think the majority of us sort of walked away after having watched that so outraged that we were automatically demanding some sort of, recount or the result to be turned over. But it was unfortunate. But like I say, sometimes these things do happen. And it happened in this instance. So who knows if they'll have any traction with that. And we know from even Joseph Parker's own career, there was a fight he was in with Hughie Fury where Team Fury, remember Mick Hennessy was talking shades of Ali after Hughie Fury's performance against Joseph Parker. They actually appealed to the WBO and the WBO dismissed it. So, I do wonder if this is going to have any impact. Was it really so egregious that this really needs to be turned over? It's very debatable. There will be some who are thinking, absolutely, we should be going after this. And if you're on Team Parker's sort of side, and others for Dillian Whyte camp will be like, well, what's the point? Whyte actually deserved to win. And, I can see both sides here, but I don't know if there really is going to get any traction with the sanctioning bodies. But we'll wait and see on this. But there was one other thing that's sort of come out in the last day or so that's worth touching on that related to the aftermath of this fight, the fallout, shall we say. So Samoa's Prime Minister says that Kevin Barry needs to go. Joseph Parker should split with Kevin Barry. So we have Prime Minister Tuilepa Sailele Malingoi telling Joseph Parker, and this wasn't recently, he's actually said this quite some time ago after the Joshua loss. So if we go to the Television New Zealand story on this, Tuilepa says Parker was not fit in his loss to Dillian Whyte last weekend, the Samoa Observer reported. At least 3 times he had the chance to put his opponent down, but he was not fit. He felt that the Barry partnership had reached the end of the line, saying that he spoke with Parker about leaving Barry after he lost his unification title fight with Anthony Joshua in April, quoted as saying, "I told him your trainer has reached the end of his knowledge and know-how in boxing. He needs to go." He suggested Parker should look at Freddie Roach, Manny Pacquiao's trainer, ex-trainer, quite not up on the play on that one, as an option to replace Barry. What else? Yeah, no, we just got some other things. So one of the ex-heads of Duco has sort of talked about, he thinks it's time for Parker to retire after the loss to Whyte. That's Martin Snedden. So he obviously is a former New Zealand cricketer. He's a very good administrator. He's worked for Duco, but also he was the organiser of the 2011 World Cup. He was sort of spearheading that effort, very successful tournament. He was saying the temptation is to search for that way back. I think we've seen so far that he's really good, but he's probably not quite there. I think he's done a wonderful job with his career, but as soon as you start getting hit, the risk of ongoing brain problems really escalates. He's done really well so far, and he's looked after his money, so he's well set up. He's an intelligent young kid. I doubt he'll make this decision, but if I was him, I'd get out now. Martin Snedden. Yeah, I guess in terms of the Snedden comments, certainly there is a sort of faction or section of fans that are sort of saying, well, you've done your dash, you've made some money, it's going to be a long road back potentially to get to a title, and who knows whether the opportunities will be there. I think he needs to take a break and think about his options, but he's only 26, so he can come back, and he's certainly got the tools to come back. He's looking like he's at the very least going to be a perennial top 10 contender. Can he be more than that? Well, obviously we're sort of reading the tea leaves, but who knows? Certainly I think he needs to go away, look at himself, look at his setup, what's not working, and make some adjustments. And does that mean a new trainer? Potentially. If not a new trainer, at least some fresh thinking, because if you do the same things over and over, you'll get the same results over and over. But in terms of the Samoan Prime Minister, so Tuilepa Sailele Malingoi, well, I wonder about these comments, because obviously Joseph Parker, born and raised in New Zealand, but strong ties to Samoa. His parents were born there. Someone with the stature of, Tuilepa Sailele Malingoi, I wonder if that's actually weighed on Joseph Parker's mind, because if he hadn't told his parents, I'm sure they well know now because it's all out there in the public. And someone with that sort of standing and with the sort of respect that is shown in that island culture, I wonder what impact this has had sort of on his thinking around this. Clearly very loyal to Kevin Barry. And Kevin Barry has sort of said, Joseph Parker is like a son, that he loves him, that he spends, a lot of time with him. It's not just a trainer and fighter relationship. It's much deeper than that. And that in itself is, that's a really nice and special thing that they have. But at the same time, can they not see the forest for the trees because they are so close to each other? And there is that lingering question. Has Kevin Barry taken Joseph Parker as far as he can? Has Joseph Parker sort of maxed out on what he can get from Kevin Barry? And obviously the Samoan Prime Minister, Tuilepa Seulele Malingoi, thinks that yes, that is in fact the case. So he wanted him to go with Freddie Roach. And Freddie Roach is, a very good trainer, but also he's quite a bit like Kevin Barry in some respects as well. Yeah, I mean, there's been a number of people who've been commenting after that recent Parker video that I did, sort of the what next, sort of a range of options and trainers. And one of the sort of popular options that I've been seeing around the place is someone like an Adam Booth. And I could see that with Parker's athleticism because, he does rely on his athleticism, his reflexes. But does he have the sort of power to sort of fit into an Adam Booth type sort of, box from the outside, sniping in and out, using that athleticism? It certainly is a question. What is the sort of trainer that Joseph Parker should go with? There's a number of other people who have been saying Abel Sanchez. I mean, that would also be a very good option. I mean, there's lots of options. They all have their pros and cons. But yeah, I just don't know if it happens. But in terms of Kevin Barry, haven't really seen what he's saying about this, and he obviously got offended at the press conference. And so for the Prime Minister of Samoa to be wading into this as well, I'm sure, Kevin Barry may be well bristling at that. But it does make me wonder, with someone of that stature making these comments, what sort of pressure, because it's all public now, what sort of pressure does that put on Joseph Parker? And is his personal management team, which is different to Duco, it's different to Barry, his personal management team is made up of some family members and a retired High Court judge. They help advise Joseph Parker. Be interesting to be a fly on the wall in some of these conversations about the what next, because this is really sort of a crossroads point in Joseph Parker's career at the moment. There's a lot on the line. Very interesting. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.